no doubt. So if he did do this, but still kept working for him, expecting him to suddenly say, hey Rory, you know what? I'm going to give you this partnership or ownership now when we're making way more money. That's just a dumb decision or hope to have. This leaves us with their decision to start their own podcast, or I don't know what it is they're doing. Not sure if they committed to making more episodes. But judging by the way this was doing numbers on Vimeo at only $2, it looks like they already made that 400K they were talking about missing from the account. And yeah, I'm pocket watching, but what of it? They also left the bootleg versions up on YouTube so they could accumulate a bunch of views. I'm torn on this business decision though. One side of me says they made a ton of money on this one episode and they cashed out. They also got the benefit of it spreading too because they left the re-uploads on YouTube. Let's be real. If they wanted to get them taken down, they could. Joe Budden got the whole entire See the Thing Is episodes and all the clips with the Olivia Dope expose taken down. All of the clips too on every channel. We'll get to that in a moment though. But another part of me thinks that, what if they just released this on YouTube themselves on their own new account or channel? This way it would gain a ton of subscribers to boost the channel up initially. I would definitely get over 1 million views. And then announce a Patreon on the episode for $5 where you sort of left out the most juicy parts of that episode, so people will have a reason to actually buy it then and there. This way you would only need to sell half of what you did for the Vimeo in order to make the same amount of money. And it would be recurring too. Maybe they were worried about the legalities of it. I'm not quite sure. But this is just an alternative that I had in my mind.
Okay.
Let me know what you guys think would have been better. It may have made them less money in the short term. It wasn't a cash out like the Vimeo thing was. But what I had in my mind was the long-term money play. But that's just how I always think. With all that being said, Joe Budden also got piled on by that girl, Olivia Dope. I mean, she saw him, he was damaged, he was hurt a little bit, crawling around, he got cuts on him, and she just stomped him out. She went on a 26-minute video talking about how uncomfortable she was around Joe Budden, why she quit, and when you reference the clips she was talking about, which are now taken down, you can really understand where she's coming from. Joe Budden has a history of this, whether it be accusations or an arrest, and purports this whole protect black women thing, which I'm looking at any man crazy that tries to overcompensate by seeming like some hero or savior for females, because we've seen it happen time and time again. They usually demonstrate themselves as the ones doing the foul stuff. And in this case, I just have to hold my head, because if you're going to do something foul, like at least do it well. I mean, you're out here talking like this to this girl with a clear objective in mind, but you're doing it on a podcast that is going to go live with 2 other females right next to her watching, probably some other dudes in the background, and listening to everything going on. If you're going to attempt to at least do it when it's just you and her. That way she won't feel that embarrassment, and if she rejects you, then just keep it moving. Like, don't try to push things forward. Or maybe I'm tripping for thinking, like, logically and, you know, just normal behavior. I'm more surprised, though, and find it ironic that the other 2 females on this show aren't rallying behind her. This was a legitimate complaint by Olivia Dope, and I watched it all, and I could see why she was uncomfortable. So why is it that these 2 other females on the show, who are insufferable, by the way, not supporting her? Clearly, they don't care and are only interested for themselves. And let's get into why the hell does this podcast even exist? This is where I go into Joe Budden trying to be this network or CEO when it's not his role. He's an excellent entertainer, but a leader, a CEO, he is trash at that. He's incredibly emotional, and he should just stick to his role and hire an actual CEO who knows what he's doing. You can still be the owner of a company and not be CEO. But he was on his podcast giving a response to this for an hour and said absolutely nothing. And this is why I give him credit on being an excellent entertainer. It's masterful how he's able to do that. But why would you start an all-female podcast, and 2 of them? Joe does seem to have a solid amount of female viewers, but I think the male viewers still far outnumber them, especially considering the content he makes. But he does it anyway, and I'm thinking, let's put myself in Joe Budden's head. I'm thinking, oh, if we can capture the female audience, we'll have double the audience size. So I'm just gonna make a female podcast. When that's not how it works at all. But anyway, the results should show you what the market thinks of their podcast anyway. And they hate it. It's regularly disliked to hell. The views are awful. And it might honestly be harming the entire channel. But he doesn't pull the plug on it. And don't even get me started on them bringing a damn therapist on the show. Man, I can't stand this whole mental health thing. Now I'm gonna power up a little bit on the video. Don't worry, it's only KO Ken, we're not going too crazy. And most of the people already left the video at this point, so it's really only the real ones still watching. But why is it whenever somebody does something foul, they just pull out this whole mental health card? We don't give a damn about all that. Screw your therapist too. It's some shield that's used because there's this whole notion now, especially, of how mental health is so important. And of course it is, but the empathy that people have towards it is being abused by these people. Everyone suddenly got depression, anxiety, ADHD, ACDC, whenever there's heat on them from poor, repeated behavior, hypocritical behavior. I mean, y'all are on a highway to hell. Neither Joe Budden or these two bum-ass hoes on the female podcast took any accountability for what happened. It's prefaced with, we take accountability, and then after that is a bunch of excuses to try to weasel out of it. Now they're talking about getting sensitivity trainers, and I must be in the wrong timeline or universe too. Maybe Barry Allen accidentally pulled me over here or something. But if you need to hire a sensitivity trainer, whatever the hell that is, whoever had that job title, continue finessing that bread. If you need to hire that to tell you that what you were doing in that episode was foul, very out of place, especially in the work environment, then I don't know. Even out of a work environment, that's super weird. Because I feel like anybody with common sense could have told you that. And remember when I said Joe Budden was the same exact thing as those suits he claimed to hate? What do corporations do other than try to bury stuff, which they did with the podcast Olivia mentioned? And I don't think them deleting it off their own channel was burying it. If they didn't approve of it, they could delete it off of their own channel. But burying it was taking down all the other clips people have put up of it. And what else do corporations do but hire sensitivity trainers, bring on therapists for PR? All of this is to look like they're doing something. Happy with Joe Budden since they told him to take a couple of episodes off the pod like he did with Rory. Not sure if they severed ties with him for the future or just didn't want to be sponsoring these couple of drama episodes, I guess you could call it. But from a business standpoint, I would think it's more used for them. But from a image standpoint, I'm sure they don't want to be sponsoring an episode where he's really getting accused of some foul behavior by a woman. With all that being said, though, I don't think Joe Budden is going anywhere. You can't cancel someone like this, and I wouldn't want that for him either. The people that hate him now will just hate watch him. He's too captivating of a figure to ever be taken down when he owns his own company, which is brilliant by him, and why I don't think he should ever have anyone else have ownership of him. But let me know what y'all think in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you for watching. Peace.
Video is sponsored by Dr. Fur.
Baby.
Where is Corbin Johnson? The 18-year-old's parents say they dropped him off last week at a job interview and they never saw him again.
Corbin's parents say they have no idea where their son is after his friends called looking for him too.
I'm gonna shut my house up over Elder Baby, my little brother Quan.
I'm from the north side of Jacksonville.
The north side has a reputation for being one of the more violent sides, right?
Yeah, that's the most violent side of Jacksonville. Ball Creek, up in the Long Strip.
Gunfire erupts in the local neighborhood, leaving one person dead. He was shot and killed in the parking lot of a Northwest Jacksonville apartment complex.
Her family was woken up about 1:30 in the morning Saturday when a break came crashing through a sliding glass door in the back of their house.
Friday, the city had 3 shootings within hours. One was in Durkeeville, another was off Gate Parkway, and another near 20th Street in Talleyrand.
Those gunshots killed a man in his mid-20s who was standing outside the front door of this employment agency.
3 people were shot, and the search is on now for 2 suspects.
Shell casings and markers cover the 2100 block of Brooklyn Road. JSO says a suspect fired about 50 shots around 2:30 Sunday afternoon.
The men were driving when another car pulled up next to them and began shooting at them. 22-month-old Aiden McClendon was shot and killed.
4 men were shot.
Shot in the head.
Shot in a mass shooting.
He was shot and killed.
Shot to death.
Shot.
Gunshots.
I heard 6 gunshots.
At the start of 2021, the song called Who I Smoke came out and went mega viral. Now, from the outset, this looked like any innocent hip-hop video, with a bunch of nice-looking, well-dressed young men out on the golf course for an enjoyable day, teeing off on the green. These young men seem to be known as ATK, okay. Well, it turns out that that ain't the name of their local golf club. In fact, you might have missed something very important if you didn't pay attention at the start of that video, because when the first guy tees off his golf ball, bullet shell casing drops to the ground. And once this subtle reference to shootings has passed, we then begin to hear a very familiar musical sample, Vanessa Carlton's 1,000 Miles. Well, what a charming song to hit a few balls off the green to, eh? And for the first 30 seconds of the video, all we see is our well-dressed protagonists jamming out for some Vanessa Carlton and having a great day on the course. But at a certain point, the beat drops, and these boys go from Tiger Woods to tie him up and put him in a woods. Because what followed was one of the most diabolical and disrespectful diss songs in hip-hop history. This song, Who I Smoke, goes on to reference around half a dozen murdered gang members, many of whom were only teenagers when they were killed. No real guns appear in this music video, only hidden and coded references to violence, like the shell casing dropping to the ground at the start, or the toting of fake water pistols instead of real guns. So the charming settings of the visuals of this music, combined with the demonic gang shit that the rappers are actually speaking about, unsurprisingly, made this piece of media go mega viral. And before you know it, it seemed like everybody on social media was singing Who I Smoke. However, very few people took a step back to understand exactly what or who these gang-affiliated golf course gophers were actually talking about. Since then, countless of hilarious reaction videos have been made to Who I Smoke, along with a handful of breakdowns which try to get to the heart of exactly why these two groups in Jacksonville have been beefing for so many years. Now, I've spent the last few weeks taking a closer look at this story, and I would say that until now, nobody has truly captured the magnitude of the wild shit that has gone down between these two groups. And after everything I've learned, I'm honestly convinced that this right here is the bleakest, darkest, and most disrespectful feud in rap, hell, even gang history. Because in many ways, the Jacksonville hoods the boys involved in this story come from are truly some of the most dangerous and deadly in the entire world. Seriously, some of what you're about to hear today is going to make Chiraq look like Disneyland. So buckle up, pour a drink, roll a woods, and prepare yourself for one of the most craziest and heartbreaking stories that hip-hop has ever seen. But allow me to warn you people, this one is not for the faint of heart. Today's story takes place in Jacksonville in the northeast of Florida. Now, many decades ago, Jacksonville became a consolidated city-county with Duval County. This created one metropolitan area called the City of Jacksonville and Duval County, and an enormous area which actually is the most populated city in all of Florida. Now, that's not strictly important for this story, but sometimes you might hear people referencing things that went down in Jacksonville or Duval County. Just know that they're basically one and the same. Now, if you've been a fan of Florida rappers like YNW Melly, then you'll know that guns are readily available in the state of Florida. In fact, the majority of people in the state seem to be armed to the teeth. And much like the city itself, the gangs that roam the streets of Jacksonville have a long history too. Over the past few decades, many gangs and gangsters have called Jacksonville, Florida their home. From Rolling 20s Bloods to Crips, GDs, and Hispanic gangs like MS-13 fleeing other states and setting up shop in Jacksonville. However, the gangsters that we're interested in for the sake of this story are those talented ones who rap. When it comes to Jacksonville, one of the biggest names to ever come out of the city is, of course, Youngin Ace. Real name Keanta Bullard, Ace was born in Chicago but moved to Florida as a child. He actually started rapping at the young age of 14, finding himself rolling with a crew of rapping G's called the Youngin Gang, a crew apparently founded by Flip the Youngin and Trigger Roma.
They were older than me, I was younger.
Oh, okay.
But their name was just spelled like Y-U-N-G.
So Ace, along with his youngin' gang boys, made songs like the early track Go to War, which came along with a music video where they were showing off some heavy artillery. Hell, at one point, a dude even pulls out a World War I looking rifle with a goddamn bayonet at the end. Guess these guys are in the trenches for real. Now, that music video introduced us to a few other familiar faces that were around Ace in the early days of his career. That includes Ace's blood brother, Quan one or two times, and his close homie 23, or RJ. Now, this was Ace's first big breakout song, racking up a whopping 100k views in the first week, going on to rack up a big boy M. This was the song that made Ace a bona fide rapper. And despite a minor setback with Ace getting sent to jail on a juvenile charge, with his first taste for success in the music industry, Ace would continue to flood the market with music and raise his profile. So, with a lot of success in the rap game and a solid reputation in the streets, Ace's circle of influence in Jacksonville would continue to grow. And over time, fans would begin to recognize the faces of people in his crew. Other people include Kobe, aka Thor, Fast Money Goon, D De Niro, Ray Spaz, Trey Shorty, Crazy K, Sosa, or Scotty. Now, at a certain point later on in the story, Ace lost a few of his Day One homies and would move away from the Youngin gang, which was originally made up of Ace's Day One homies more from the Orange Park and west side of Jacksonville. However, over time and as the story develops, Ace and his remaining friends from the west will grow close to a number of crews on the east side of Jacksonville, forming a new group of crews which would roll together under the name of ATK, something which most people seem to understand as standing for Ace's Top Killers, but for the record, other people have described ATK as potentially standing for Ace to Kill, Aim to Kill, or just being short for Attack. So this crew, as they were known, would soon become affiliated with the Melvin Park area of Jacksonville, with several people that represent under the ATK banner hailing from there, including the supposed demon of Jacksonville, K-So. Now, we're going to learn more about this guy as the story goes on, but let me tell you, he is super scary. By his own admission, K-So would quite literally kill for anything.
I kill you if you're staring at my grandpa's bowl. My mama told me chill, because I've been killing niggas. You for real? Man, for real, I be really killing niggas. I don't tell lies. All I do is say facts. Kill any nigga. I do not care where he at.
He ain't lying. We've also got K-So's brother, Boss Goon, ATK White Beezy, and also affiliated with ATK are the crew of 1200, hailing out of 1200 block on the east side, a crew which back in the day has been referred to as 187 or Out West. Now this crew is affiliated with an area running from the TIAA Bank Field to Evergreen Cemetery and up to just before 21st Street. Some members of this group have been known to represent under the S4C, meaning Spaz for Corbin, a reference to a fallen friend of theirs. And you might also see Jump Out or Cuckoo Gang affiliated with members of this group too. And hailing from this area are several familiar faces such as Spinner Benz and his blood brother Whopper with the Chopper, aka Ducci, as well as 18 Nietzsche, Bevel 5 or B5, Lil Popper, Greenlight, Lil Leaky, and Shook. So that's the ATK crew. Now let's have a look at their ops, Katie. But first, a word from our sponsor.
I'd like to thank the Dr. Phone Virtual Location Changer for iOS for sponsoring today's video. Jeez. Listen, yo. Dr. Phone lets you change your GPS location on your phone easily without jailbreaking. The whole process is easy, so try it, bro. All you need to do is download Dr. Phone. You can get it on iOS or Windows. Launch the program, then just connect your iPhone. Then you're ready to set your location, let it flow. It's great that if you're playing games like Pokemon Go, you can drop your character anywhere on the globe with just a few clicks, all from inside your home. And with automatic marching and 360 directions, you'll be able to move around in continuous motion using your keyboard to avoid teleportation detection, giving you a huge advantage, man. It's like a secret weapon. Dr. Phone is perfect for those who want to play without going outside on rainy days. I live in the countryside where things are free, but I use Dr. Phone to play games with people in cities. But it's not just a game, and Dr. Phone can keep you safe, keep your location private from the ops and the snakes. With Location Changer, secure your personal space, cause there's so many snaky apps tracking you these days. If you want more privacy day to day, or an edge on location-based games, go and download Dr. Phone today for iOS, link in the description on this page. Thanks again for Dr. Phone for sponsoring today's video. Don't get caught lacking, people. Scroll down and press that link in the description and download Dr. Phone today. Thanks for the sponsor, guys. Peace.
ATK's sworn enemies are KTA, which stands for Kill Them All. Not very very friendly, that, is it? Just like ATK has its origins in the Youngins gang, it's been said that KTA has its roots in a more organized crew of OG Jacksonville gangsters called PTE, or Problem Child Entertainment. Now, this is a legit gang that was really dismantled in the 2017 RICO case. This saw over 10 senior members from the PTE operation facing racketeering charges for multiple counts of murder and firearms offenses. Now, this group had actually attracted a significant amount of attention from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office following a tragic January 2016 incident when a 22-month-old baby, Aiden McClendon, was sadly killed after being sat in the baby seat of a car that was targeted in a drive-by shooting. The police were able to connect those bullets that killed that baby to the PTE crime organization, and both of the shooters in this case were convicted of murder.
2 guilty verdicts were read, one for Henry Hayes and one for Kwame Richardson, who were tried separately. Prosecutors say both were targeting a rival gang member when 22-month-old Aiden McClendon was shot and killed while he was sitting in a car with his mother on the city's east side.
But to make things even more crazy, it's being suggested that that 22-month-old baby that was killed was actually a direct relative of Whopper with a Chopper and Spinner Benz. But anyway, regardless of that, with this kind of fuck shit going down in the streets affecting 22-month-old children, it's no surprise that the Jacksonville Colts ended up cracking down hard on PTE. But growing up in the midst of these budding gang wars on the streets of Jacksonville is a young rapper by the name of Foolio, aka Julio Foolio, aka Lil Six. Now, this nickname is derived from the Six, or Six block in Jacksonville, where Foolio hails from. The territory apparently stretching from 45th and Moncrief up to Avenue B, with Foolio specifically hailing from the Hilltop Village Apartments. Now, this area is the north side of Jacksonville, an area which Foolio says is also the most violent part of the city.
I'm from the north side of Jacksonville, 1646 West 45th Street, Bricks, 6. Yeah, that's the most violent side of Jacksonville.
Now, Foolio is considered the most hated rapper in Florida, and it's easy to see why when you consider how he came up. Foolio said that he had to buy his very first gun for protection when he was in just the 7th grade, because apparently he was already beefing with grown men with bigger guns.
Oh, nigga got their first gun in motherfucking 7th grade. He said he wanted to 7th with a Deuce 5, so after that, it was a wrap. We'll always be with grown, older niggas, so shit, they always had the advantage and shit of us. Like, they always had the guns and the cars to put up on us, and you feel me? We never had that shit.
Foolio's upbringing seems like it was nothing but pain. In fact, his father was murdered when Foolio was only 13 years old, being shot in the head twice in a brutal attack. Apparently retribution after a man that Foolio's father had beaten up a month before came to get back. Foolio even said that he witnessed his first murder at close range at the young age of 12.
Wow, I saw a nigga get shot in this shit, but this was in my other dog, this was in West Jack. I was probably like, I was 12 years old seeing that type of shit though, that shit went down.
Apparently, Foolio also got shot in the leg getting off the school bus, age 50.
We getting off the bus and shit. I ain't thinking nothing of it. I got uniform all booked for me. I ain't thinking nothing of it. This my first day of school. Mine's not. This my first day getting, because I got kicked out of school. Another school fighting, so this my first day in alternative school. So boom, nigga had ran through the cut with a shoe and I got hit from my motherfucking hip one time.
So having described Jacksonville as a literal war zone, then it's no surprise to find out that apparently Foolio had lost around 15 friends to gun violence before he had even turned 20. In fact, you'll hear Foolio telling his deceased friends to rest up in his music frequently. Names like Vontae, Kendre, and Newski pop up in Foolio's music frequently, but thankfully, being forced to literally dodge bullets on the way to school in the morning as a kid didn't dampen Foolio's spirit. Apparently, he was always a charismatic young spitter and was apparently rapping his entire childhood despite the violence going on around him.
I always been rapping like it. It's a good move, rapping at me. I always know how to rap, so I would do it.
The first song of Foolio's that got a few 100,000 views was the track Coming Up, and off the back of the success of that song, he would drop mixtapes like Who I Am before leveling up with the sequel called Industry Invasion. Over time, Foolio would gradually pick up a bigger buzz and more attention in the industry, eventually landing in the studio with some big-name producers. Most notably, Atlanta legend Zaytoven, creating bangers like How You Do It, and the fully Zaytoven-produced mixtape Six Toven. Now, we'll cover